Florr is a game where you waste thousands of hours of your life to farm for differently colored squares. It is a game where people spend tens of thousands of dollars to become the most powerful, elite players in the world, only to get banned for account sharing and nerfs to oblivion from a random update. Florr, underneath its simple, charming exterior, is a terrifying experience that will seize your soul and trap you in your basement for years. Despite being pretty simple on the outside, Florr is actually pretty complex. For a simple browser game that any average Joe can play with a simple Google search, it's almost like an MMORPG with NPCs, multiple areas, endless build customization, in-game purchases, and it can all very easily become overwhelming for new players, especially for people expecting, your standard .io game experience. And despite Florr Beginner's Guide being literally the first search option under the game on YouTube, there aren't any really good comprehensive guides on the game. I mean, there is the Florr wiki and the Discord, and there are a couple of good guide reviews, many of which are outdated. But I know no one wants to do their own original research like good little simps, so I've decided to chronicle all my knowledge from the years I've played this game, which is definitely 100% reliable and trustworthy, into this guide on most major things in the game, as well as the best ways to progress. I'll tell you about the optimal strategies, how to make good builds, how to loot mobs and find good squads, how to get ultra and super petals, a bunch of niche and useless secrets that people might not know about, how to not escape your basement, and how to like and subscribe. This video is split into chapters, so if you've already played the game before, you can skip to the areas you need. But if you're new here, then keep watching, so I can tell you what the heck this game is even about in the first place. Okay, so in Florr, you play as a cute little flower. I mean, it's right there in the name. And your goal is to violently massacre all the bugs around you to obtain more and more valuable petals, tiered by rarities, which mobs also have. The higher the rarity, the stronger the petal, and your goal is to get the highest rarity petals possible to flex on the filthy casuals who don't spend hundreds of hours on an IO game. Each rarity gets exponentially harder to obtain, with the later rarities taking potentially billions worth of the earlier rarities. Rookie numbers, am I right? So, how do you get better rarities? Well, it's pretty simple. You just kill stronger and stronger bugs to get petals, which when placed in the appropriate slot allow you to attack more mobs, heal, defend, see ghosts, give birth, you get the point. And you simply loop the cycle until you retire or you die. Finally, since for some reason all RPGs have to have a skill tree, this game has a skill tree, which allows you to upgrade talents with TP or talent points, creative naming. Each level up gained from killing mobs gives you 1 TP, and every 10th level up you get 10 TP, which is more than I'll ever have in real life. Anyway, I won't go over more of the basics because unless you have the mental faculties of a quarter-year-old, you should be able to know how to move and click buttons. Oh yeah, screw cursor movement. Go to settings here to enable keyboard movement. It's much better. Anyway, so for the 3 people who are actually playing this game while this video is playing and not sitting back wondering, what is this cool flower game about? After you've explored a little, gone through some mysterious eldritch portals, and encountered some harder enemies past the tutorial zone, you're already ready to know the most broken strategy possible in this game: descending into the earth. There are a bunch of different areas, and the easiest area by far to level up is for some reason called Anthell, and contrary to its hellish label, this area is essentially the baby zone of areas. If you head down to this portal, dodging and dying to the various ranged hornets and spiders like Jeffrey Epstein trying to dodge predator allegations, you'll quickly find out why. Compared to the previous mobs who can easily destroy you with speed and efficiency, then you're not gonna lose off. The ants here die in 5 hits, fight like, well, ants, and you're completely cheesed by running in circles. They even bring their kids to work. If you take an up on the first intersection here, you'll enter the first and easiest of the 3 ant kingdoms, which are comprised of these weak normal ants. And going further in and farming them for their glasses, why do ants drop glass again? Leaves and corns should boost you to legendary petals in like 10 minutes. Mobs, unfortunately, do drop less petals the stronger they are, so you might have to craft petals into higher rarities with a low chance to progress now. Get used to getting your hopes destroyed along with your petals when that wheel finishes spinning. Come on, light! Yes, this here I have to say for you. Which also reminds me, isn't this technically just gambling with real money since petals can be bought from the shop? I mean, what's the chance an IO game targeting children out of all things could be practicing malicious and manipulative practices in mechanics specifically designed to induce excessive spending and gambling addiction to maximize profit? That couldn't possibly be the case, right? Oh yeah, and there's a shop, and what would you know, pedal prices you couldn't possibly afford with a normal free-to-play challenge system. Plus this bonus wheel, which incentivizes players to consistently play, increasing their chances further of getting hooked on the system. Moral implications aside, make sure to uncheck this option so you can maximize as much time as possible to buff your pedal rates. You don't want to waste ×2 pedal production on walking to the area you're farming to, after all. If you've died at least one up to this point, use this shortcut, which every map has, to get to harder areas earlier. And if you had random players joining your squad, then block them on social media. Squads basically create communism. If someone loses a pedal, then everyone gets a copy of that pedal as well if they're in the squad. You'll usually auto-join squads, but can also invite people with this command. Commands, by the way, are entered with an enter and /, like some other games, and you can press tab to speak with your squad specifically. Yet another handy trick is to press Alt to see the names and pedal rarities of nearby players, as well as the average rarities of mini-zones on the map, the non-rounded values of stats, and plus holding it allows you to insta-craft orbs with pedals, which both helps in saving time and increasing the amount of times you accidentally craft something you really didn't want to craft. Now, at this point, you might have fought a mythic mob without getting anything, probably because it got obliterated in one hit, and may have wondered how looting or getting pedals works. Essentially, to loot any mob, you or the average damage of your entire squad needs to have damaged at least 15% of that mob's max HP, and only the top 4 damage dealers can loot. By the way, if an entire squad doesn't fit into the loot table, then members are chosen randomly to get loot. So, theoretically, if a bunch of stronger players are also farming in the area you're in, and from personal experience this happens really often, then you're kind of screwed. To alleviate this, it might be a good idea to switch servers. Each of the 3 servers have different sets of players, with EU usually having the least because no one lives in Europe. So if you're struggling to loot, then make sure to make the switch. And you can even do this while transitioning between different areas after entering the portal. Now, at this point, you might have obtained a full set of legendaries and noticed in abject horror that mythics have a 4% chance of being crafted. And you may have also looted a mythic mob and noticed with further horror that mythic mobs have a less than 1% chance of dropping mythic pedals. This handy chart I pulled from the dark web shows the average number of petals needed to craft the next rarity, which in this case is 65. Now, before you blow your balls off, remember the buff that bonuses give. In reality, getting a mythic only requires 1 hour of farming with the bonus, or 2 if you're unlucky. So actually it really doesn't take too long if you don't die every 10 seconds, play it safe, don't take on too many mobs at once, and upgrade your talents. Oh wait, okay, talents. First priority, bum rush range, vision, and second chance to die less, which you are most likely struggling with. After that, good talents to get these ones, maybe these ones, and especially these ones. Bad talents for now, basically everything else. Got it? Alright. So, where were we? Right, mythics. Your next goal is to continue on until you farm a whole build of these, which your new mythic should help a lot with. Since mobs don't die in a couple of hits now, you'll need to make sure to have enough space behind you so you don't get teamed on while fighting them. If you need to, use shovel to sneakily escape being surrounded, although make sure to prioritize killing the mob they drop from, since worms can freaking hit you while you're shoveling. Freaking worms, I hate dungards, go. By the way, for those struggling with healing, you can save and switch loadouts by holding L and then any number key, and the additions will be saved to your selected slot. If you're one of the 20 mobile users playing this game, you can hold X instead to select your slot. So you can have your normal build in L1 and a healing build in L2 if you want. Reload helps switch builds faster if you need it. At this point, Anthell is still the most efficient area by far for progression, but it might be handy to diversify and get some side upgrades. So let's get the hell, pun intended, out of this dingy underground hole and breathe some fresh air, because it's finally time to explore all the other areas. Since there are many areas in this game and I still want to keep the 13 nanosecond attention spans of my viewers, I'm going to cover all of these pretty briefly, starting with Garden. What, you want me to talk about Anthell more? As I said earlier, there are 3 different subzones in Anthell. First up are the normal ants you've already faced, while the other 2 have special abilities which make them slightly more dangerous. In these huge chambers, here you have the fire ants, which are red, deal twice the damage of normal ants, and that's literally it.
Oh, and they have a larger aggro range. These guys mainly drop Yuccas. Anyway, it's a decent healing petal, but the main attraction here are triangles, and despite its design literally being a polygon, these guys are for some reason insanely busted. Triangles deal more damage the more you use them. A full build of Mythic Triangles gives you 12,000 damage per second or DPS, which isn't that great, but it's insane for a Mythic build anyway. If you use 5 or less though, they're worse than the average petal. I better not see any heathen walk around with 4 triangles after this video gets published. If I do, I will. You can save and switch loadouts by holding L and then any number key. Any additions will be saved to your selected slot. So you can have your normal build in L1 and a healing build in L2 if you want. There's also the termites, which have the special ability of being avid socialists, so they're very dangerous in groups, but they also drop great petals like bone, which bones their opponents, and planks, which finally protect you against those stupid eggs. And queen ants can also sometimes spawn in special areas, and if you're one of the few lucky players to loot one, you can get Basil, an important healing petal. Okay, one important thing. So you know how your petals have to rotate all the way around you before they can actually hit mobs? Well, that's bad. What you want is to have your petals reload right before or as they hit the mob. This can be done if you upgrade your talents precisely and change this rotation wheel so that by the time it's reloaded, your petal will have completed a whole number of rotations. This can be calculated by dividing the radius. If you don't want to do the math, just increase the rotation speed by a bunch with talents and fasters I dropped from Spider and you'll be fine. If your petals respawn after reaching the mob, then turn down the speed with this wheel. Rotation is extremely important for DPS. Often using a faster to reach ideal rotation will add more DPS than another or 2 strong damage petals, so make sure to remember that for later. Anyway, let's get out of Anthill. I am so genuinely done with this biome. Finally, back here to the very first area. One thing to note is that unlike Anthill, Garden is one of the 4 main areas accessible from the main menu and as such features checkpoints. When you reach a checkpoint, you will respawn at the previous checkpoint you've obtained when you die. To see where the checkpoints are and a bunch of other cool map stuff, go to this handy website by Vortex Prime and Nardzy, link in the description. I highly recommend to check it out to see where mobs spawn and stuff. It's actually really cool. Anyway, so the biome itself. Garden may seem like a bustling paradise until you find yourself face to face with the epic plus rarity horn. Predictive aiming. Freaking predictive aiming. It's terrible. It's a tragedy. There are some potential countermeasures you can use. You can juke them by moving in one direction and then sliding right back right as they're about to fire, which is decent against one hornet if done right. For multiple though, the best you can do is just weave back and forth and pray one of those missiles don't slide through your petals right into your balls. Oh, and there's spiders too. You pretty much need 2 or 3 mythic planks at all times, super range, and a pincer for the spiders. Plus, most of the drops here aren't even great. The best you'll get is this drop from Ultra Rocks at a generous 0.002% chance, bug legs to improve your vision, or this circle on a stick which is pretty useful against literally one mob. At least if you go here, you can farm ladybugs for Ultra Orb. What's an orb, you might ask? You'll find that out later. Also, if you go into this portal, you can absorb petals to gain levels. Use this whenever you can on bad petals that aren't important to you. It actually increases your TP amount by a lot. But yeah, apart from that, don't farm this biome unless you're like a level 150 tryhard who can split mountains in seconds. Thankfully, there are a ton of areas you can go to besides Garden, including the sandy area, which you can access by going through this portal down here. This transports you to the warm sandy dunes, or frighteningly fast beetles and scorpions, which somehow shoot these black triangles that deal an unreasonable amount of poison damage, can easily overwhelm you if you don't have the right build, sending you all the way back to this really tucked in spawn area. If you want to walk back faster, make sure to use this shortcut, then go up here first to set a checkpoint. If you don't, then if you die, you'll be sent all the way back here, so good luck super hunting with that. To deal with the scorpions, it's a good idea to use lotuses from the sewers to negate their poison damage. And scorpions drop pincers that are really good at stopping beetles and a lot of other mobs. I highly recommend you to try and get a high rarity pincer throughout every stage of the game. It's honestly one of the most useful petals. There's tons of other great petals that I don't have the time to go over, including several summons. Who uses summons now anyway? Check them out on your own time. There's a couple more annoying mobs like these PTSD inducing sandstorms or these explosive landmines known as fire ant burrows, but they spawn far less often. One mob that spawns very not often is this rare variant of ladybug, which drops the Yggdrasil. Entire wars have been fought for this petal. Civilizations have risen and fallen in the search of its bounty.
Thousands of players in their last words as they lay dead on the ground, begged vainly for the deliverance of the Yggdrasil.
To get this extremely valuable petal, go around this open area in desert or farm desert here, and when you see it, do not hesitate to rip apart it as fast as possible so someone doesn't steal it before you. And finally, you'll sometimes find this homeless little guy who randomly wanders around the map, hiding better than a Viet Cong soldier in the process. If you somehow manage to find him, you can convert a trash petal into a coin and OK damage petal. I definitely recommend using this trader to upgrade bad petals like Clover and Relic into coins, especially if it's one of your higher rarity ones. And if you can't find it, join the official florr Discord and beg in general chat for the trader location until you get warned by Locks for spam. JK, don't actually do that. The next biome and the third to be added into the game is the ocean. This biome has some of the deadliest and worst mob combinations possible, including jellyfish that strike you with unavoidable lightning, shells that knock you into low Earth sustainable orbit, and the absolute menace that is the crab. However, ocean actually has some of the best petals in the game, including the best healing petal in the game, the second best healing petal in the game, the only movement petal in the game, and balls. And all these other cool things. To survive here, you'll need lots of healing to deal with all the dangerous mobs, pincer to stop quick mobs, dandelion to deal with starfishes, and plenty of legendary plus rubber to tank jellyfish. Good luck trying to fit all of that in your build. The most important thing in Ocean though probably is the bubble, the main movement petal in the game, which is dropped by a mob of the same name. Yeah, this gets confusing real fast. Anyway, the bubble accelerates you when right-clicked in the opposite direction. Use lights and other petals to concentrate them, allowing you to accelerate in a certain direction. And using yin-yangs obtained from the next area, you can control the direction you travel in. Yin-yangs basically work by switching the way your petals rotate, and putting it off and on will allow you to keep your petals in one location, especially when using this wheel that slows down petal rotation. You should always have a bubble build to escape mobs and move around easier, preferably in L2 for ease of access. Another vital petal is Magnet from Shells, which makes picking up petals way easier. Sponge is also a great survival petal that allows you to tank one-hit shots with healing and cotton, and if you use second chance or switch to a build with a lot of health granting petals, you can even cancel the damage altogether. Ocean also has its own NPC located here called the Oracle, which predicts that you will die in a house fire, but also guarantees a craft if you have the average number of lower rarity petals needed for it to succeed. On average, it's literally the same chance as normal crafting, but you might want to use this for petals you really don't want to fail. Ocean is unique in that it is split into multiple sub-areas dominated by only one or two mobs, so you can simply choose an area and farm that petal instead of getting a bunch of random trash you don't want. Of course, there's also the standard free-for-all areas if you want them, namely trenches and hook, but generally these special zones like Starfish Zone, Jelly Zone up here, and especially Shell Zone, which is shaped like a shell, wow, crazy, are a bit more efficient and also populated with high-level players, although many of them are pretty dangerous zones with a lot of ultra mobs. And speaking of dangerous, the fourth and final of the main areas accessible from the main menu is the jungle. And this area is basically Garden on Nightmare Ultra Gaiden Vietnam War 2 mode. If you thought hornets were bad, we'll have one that's impossible to dodge, and have another hornet which makes you take 10 times more damage if you get hit by any other projectile. Plank, please call 911. Advice for surviving here: use tons of healing, tons of range, tons of planks, and tons of patience. You can actually juke wasps the same as hornets, just timing is much harder. You'll also want to avoid luring too many enemies as much as possible, or the bullet hell will escalate very fast. The drops though are not bad at all, especially Root, an extremely good defense petal which nullifies damage if you don't take damage for a long time. You should use this in basically any farming build ever. There's also Yin Yang for the earlier bubble builds, in 10A, and the long-awaited Magic Orb. Orbs drop from magic fireflies that spawn in waves every so often, and when equipped they allow other mobs to drop magic petals instead of their usual drops. Unlock higher rarity magic petals with better orbs. And hey look, ladybugs drop orbs with it equipped. I wonder which area I referenced previously spawns a ton of ladybugs. Magic petals cost blue juice to use, which is restored by magic leaves, and good ones to get are Jungle is the last of the four main maps, but if you've seen the garden map, you'll probably have noticed a bunch more portals to more areas that we haven't covered. Anthill is of course one of these, but there's a couple more, including this completely infested sewer system filled with annoying flies that dodge all your attacks, roaches that break the sound barrier, and spiders. These mobs are pretty much impossible to deal with using normal builds, unless you're using lightning or its equivalent, with which this area suddenly becomes an absolute cakewalk. Well, except if that happens. Use pincers to disable roaches and spiders, and use the power of Zeus to obliterate everything else, since flies can't dodge lightning for some reason. With this strategy, sewers actually becomes one of the most efficient farming areas in the entire game, with decent petals to boot. Poo is useful for surviving in dangerous areas and has the added bonus of having an approximately 66.9% higher craft chance than all other petals. Don't ask me why I know this information. And there's also Dust, a very powerful DPS petal I'll talk about a bit later, although it is dropped from Silverfish, and man, you do not want to mess with Silverfish. The other dungeon accessible from Garden is Detroit, accessible using this portal. Factory is split into 8 cubicles surrounding a confusing pipe network of shortcuts which takes 13 duodecillion years to travel through. But you'll probably find it preferable to bubbling through these long hallways filled with, dare I say, absolutely terrifying machinery. You've got spiders that ignore all your defense, mecha flowers that hit you for no reason, freaking homing missiles, undodgeable lasers. Yeah, this area is genuinely bullcrap. Remember the specific petals you needed to survive in ocean, desert, and jungle? Well, here you're gonna need all of the above. Half of the stuff here is literally, and I mean actually, literally impossible to dodge. And plus they even have more armor than most other mobs. Thankfully they do drop really powerful petals, including stronger lightning, your own homing missiles, provided you have the appropriate mechanical adaptive network targeting episcope, and the worst petal in the game. Factory also features these peaceful mobs called assemblers, which spawn pretty often, and they allow you to convert petals to other petals with a specific recipe randomly chosen every time they spawn. Most of these are utter scams, but some, like air to bubble, glass to sand, triangle to cutter, and the saw blade, compass, and moon ones are all actually useful. Despite its dangers, Factory actually has some of the best and most unique petals of any area, and in the Ultra section I'll cover stuff you can do here. Also, goggles, which allow you to fight ghosts. Ghosts don't really drop anything useful, but I guess the visual effect is cool. Okay, last area. Pyramid sucks. Basically, this area is a randomly generated maze that resets every hour, hides the map, covers the entire map in darkness so you can see mobs exactly 1 nanosecond before they absolutely annihilate you, and pretty much the only mob here stays alive after dying, forcing you to stall it until it dies from Hawking radiation 10 billion years later. You can use Bulb to light up the area, and you can rarely find map collectibles that reveal the entire map layout, but they don't help with the main danger, which is getting overwhelmed by undead mummy beetles. You have to use stall petals like Pincer and Web to prevent them from surrounding and completely crushing you to death. Lightning is great here for killing beetles in the back, preemptively starting their undead timer. There are some pretty great drops here like lentils, Nazars, which is a better route but you have to use tons of reload, bandages, which definitely let you loot mobs while undead, you should definitely equip this during the super battle, and the totem, which similarly to brutal dictators, keeps you alive as long as you kill as many nearby people as humanly possible. Problem is, the drop rates here are so abhorrent it's almost never worth farming here before getting ultras and supers, so yeah. Do note that in the darkest depths of the catacombs, the mystical pharaoh beetle may sometimes appear, adorned with a special crown with, dare I say, unique properties. But good luck fighting it with mythic petals, Lamau, you're probably going to get destroyed anyway. And with that, those are all the areas in Florio, every single one of them. I definitely did not leave a single area out. So remember when I said there were 4 normal areas accessible from the main menu? Well, I lied. If you're unfortunate enough to die and have your corpse marked with this special red star, you're gonna be damned. And if you're damned, you know where you're going. From personal experience, I'd say this area is extremely realistic in portraying its real-life counterpart. I hope you'll enjoy the teleporting beetles, and the ultra mobs that spawn literally everywhere. PvP! Actual gambling in the form of Blinklo. And like real-life gambling, you're more likely to lose chips on average. Hell is by far the most difficult area in the game, and that isn't helped by the comically low drop rates in this area. I mean, the mob designs are enough to traumatize the kids who play this game for life. Of course, many people still farm here, and for good reason. Most of the petals unique to this area are absolutely busted and have far better DPS than most other petals. Also, sometimes you can find random lost and damned souls wandering around, and if you can land a hit on one before it gets absolutely demolished by the rest of the mobs, you can enjoy some of the best drop rates in the entire game. Many high-level players employ a strategy of luring ultra mobs away from the ultra zone, then using poo and soloing every gambler and ultra gambler that spawns. Well, apparently that's how it works, but I've never tested it, so just assume I'm correct. But yeah, don't farm here unless you're a full ultra player. And if you're a full ultra player, well, you're still cooked either way, so good luck. So, those are all the maps, and I'm just gonna go out and say right now, don't farm in any of those maps for 5 hours because you ain't getting crap from any of these compared to Anthell. Most maps just have mobs that are far more difficult and are far slower to kill than those in Anthell. The solution? You're gonna need to get some ultra petals, and of course, you know where to get them. Despite all the ants being extremely weak, many of the drops are actually pretty powerful, like corn and leaf, and you can just coin the bad ones if you want to. Getting ultras is actually pretty straightforward. Just farm 7 to 9 mythic triangles, increase your petal rotation, and then hop onto an empty server like EU and repeatedly kill ultra ants while using bonus until you get enough petals to oracle an ultra. On average, it'll take around a straight week or two of farming with a full bonus every day to get all the petals you need, unless you craft one on your first attempt. However, compared to what's coming up, it's actually not that big of a commitment, so just stay determined. Unless you craft a second ultra on your third attempt.
You guys just saw that, right? It wasn't just me. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Where am I getting all this luck from?
I'm not joking, this actually happened while I was recording for this video. Getting your first ultra petal is a special moment, so make sure to savor it. Coin it if it's trash, and bask in the knowledge that you can finally be considered a noob. With the collection of your first ultra, it's probably time to explain how to make an actually good build that doesn't look like this. Generally, I consider there to be 4 different categories of builds, each one suited for a different purpose. First up are the standard farming builds you've been using, which are usually made up of some healing petals, support petals, and the rest damage petals. These are all heavily varied and are usually based on whichever biome you're in, so for example, this could be a build you use to farm jungle. If you're using a rotation build, or rot build, it's always recommended to upgrade your reload with a faster and your talents to increase your damage. This is pretty much a rule of thumb anywhere, honestly. Most of these builds are made for reliably surviving their respective biomes and for, well, farming those biomes for a long time. If you mainly use these builds, make sure to get second chance, plus a high range if you need it. In contrast, DPS builds throw away all pretense of survival for max damage output, usually using specific combinations of petals that synergize well. Obviously, rotation, as we covered in the earlier section, is extremely important for wheel builds, which synergize well with petal health but can't handle too much reload. Some examples are the triangles from earlier, corn, and dice with buffed luck along with usually a faster, and if needed, a third eye to increase range. But wait, what if I told you didn't need to deal with rotation at all? Using 2 or 3 legendary lentils from Pyramid if you remember, you can simply tuck your petals in and spew them out at perfectly optimal reload towards the nearest unsuspecting victim. In combination with high health petals like leaf, corn, rock, or saw blade, or particle petals like dust plus burr, you can bust out some insane damage numbers. This is one of the more powerful late ultra builds since you can, and should, use as high of a reload as possible without worrying about rotation. Because of how absolutely atrocious the range is though, you might want the safer wheel builds above which have far better range. Or instead, you can repeatedly yin-yang using petals like chip, laser, pearls, and privets plus an iris, instead to not have to worry about rotation, though you do need to waste a few slots on light to focus fire the actually useful petals together. High reload is also great with these petals as well. Make sure to test your builds using the dummies in jungle, or better yet, use this website created by Stormlet to test your DPS against all sorts of foes. DPS and farming builds can overlap in areas like Anthell, where the mobs are so weak it astounds me why they haven't been driven to extinction yet. I take that back. In situations like these, where the main problem is people stealing your loot or killing soldier ants before worms show up, you should always prioritize as much damage as possible, including using max damage talents like Pelt Health and Reload. Also, some farming builds are strong enough that you can freely use them as DPS, like Mecha Missiles, and non-optimal DPS petals like Thief are still useful for damage, especially as supers. The third type is the healing/tank build, and this one's basically a survival build on steroids. No damage petals here. Instead, the goal for this build is to heal when at low health or to survive in a really dangerous situation, like being cornered, allowing you to escape and recover. Sponge is extremely important in these kinds of builds to slow down the damage taken, so you can use healing, ideally buffed with bacills or cotton to nullify it. And you can use rubber or bubbles to escape mobs. One of the most important subtypes of this build, which every player should have, is the safe bubble build.
or 1 or 2 bubbles are used with tanking petals, 1 to 3 powerful damage petals like clay or corn in front to clear mobs, plus poo if needed in order to evade out of the way or through dangerous crowds of enemies. This is pretty much a requirement for super hunting and is one of the most important builds you can make. I cannot emphasize this enough. Get really used to switching to this build whenever you're in danger or need to greet mobs. It will save your life many times. Of course, this is also technically part of the 4th and final category of build, the bubble build, which I've mostly already covered. For an optimal bubble build, use 5 or 6 bubbles, 1 light, 1 powder, a slot for switching out yin yang and antennae, and an extra cotton or soil if you have space. If you spread out your bubbles like this, you'll generally have a faster speed. This is why having 2 ultra bubbles in the center isn't much slower than having all U-bubs. You really only need to farm like 3 for the safe bubble build. These builds are of course not required, however they are the most useful and most used kinds of builds in the current meta. But I would encourage you to experiment and make your own variations of builds, since everyone has different playstyles. This is also why I only talk about using specific petals instead of specifically telling you use 3 claws, 2 fasters, a potato, a pincer, and 3 Yggdrasils, because 1, you probably don't have the petals you need in the first place. Number 2, this build objectively sucks. And number 3, potatoes aren't a petal that exists in the game. By actually learning what works and what doesn't, you'll no longer have to beg people to give their builds. Plus, how do you mess up a build like this? By the way, if you're curious, most players use the second row of their builds to switch in petals they only need some of the time, like antennae, lotus, Yggdrasil, some extra healing or damage when they need it, etc. There's probably more stuff that deserves to be covered, like summoner builds and blueberries. Who cares about that anyway? Let's actually get those petals you need first, because it's going to take a much longer time than a week to assemble all these optimal builds. If you thought ultra petals were hard to get, then oh boy, you're in for a ride. Super petals are the next rarity after ultra, and for the low price of 253 ultras, you can get yourself 5% more overheal. All jokes aside, they usually take more than several months for any self-respectable florr player to get who isn't jobless or a multi-millionaire at age 6 and require extreme dedication and effort. And of course, there's also unique petals and the absolutely unobtainable eternal petals, but those are a complete different story. Alongside super petals, you have super mobs, which occasionally spawn every 5 minutes or so in the hardest ultra zones in the game. And despite having roughly over a gajillion health, they die in 30 seconds because of sweats like these. Super mobs function as special boss encounters with insane stats that can have unique abilities and can be looted by the top 25 players instead of 4. Which all but matters for balls because at least 25 maxed out super players are present for pretty much every single super mob that doesn't drop trash loot. To even stand a chance at looting even the puniest super and getting that almost guaranteed ultra drop that comes with it, you're gonna need ultras. A lot of ultras. So, how do you get ultras? No, good ultras. Well, one of the better ways is actually to keep repeating the exact same thing you were doing before in NAH. Man, don't you love brainlessly repeating the same mundane task over and over? It just fills you with a sense of pride and purpose in life. You know, I just love pressing the same key over and over to get marginally better stats. If you farm long enough, you can get ultra corns and leaves, 2 amazing DPS petals, especially the corn, which I definitely do recommend picking up. You should get at least a full build of ultras, which should take around twice the time of getting your first ultra. If you need more DPS, you might want to use a lentil build with petals other than the glass. After that, you have a ton of options. You can go to FAH and spend another month grinding ultra triangles in this chamber, which should allow you to start looting super mobs. Another pretty underrated strategy is to head to factory and obtain illegal US military equipment to to craft ultra mecha missiles. The mecha missile is not only great DPS, but is also fully ranged, which is a godsend in certain areas. And during super fights. Sure, you'll need an ultra mecha antenna, but that isn't too rare either, and you can also get other great petals like laser, cog, no, not you if you're lucky. You can also go scuba diving for bubbles to farm XP, which is actually very valuable for both survivability and damage output. You can also try to get ultra starfish, lightning, or pearls if you have more ultra petals, as well as kill Mojang removed them from the game. Once you get ultra batteries from factory, you can then head to sewers and farm for a dust build, as well as get stacked on poo and antennae. Or the final strategy you can do is literally what everyone else does, which is randomly going around and coining whatever unfortunate trash ultra you can get your little filaments on. All of these take around a month to achieve, which is understandable because the goal is a full build of DPS ultras with just enough actual potency to loot a super soldier ant 50% of the time. Utility petals are often just as important as DPS, so it's highly recommended you get those too. You should farm bubbles for XP and, well, bubbles using a safe bubble build like this in this area down here or in Starfish Zone. Use a couple bubbles, rubber, poo to sneak by mobs, and good enough damage to clear mythic mobs. Pincer Dandelion also helps a lot. If you're lucky, you can pop ultra bubbles, which get you a ton of XP and almost a guaranteed mythic bubble. You can get in 10A, preferably from sewers, although jungle or garden is also viable if you're a complete psychopath. Regardless, it'll likely take a while. Root from jungle is also viable and vastly improves your survivability. Sponge and Legendary Nizar follow the same trend too. Also, you'll probably be around your 80s to 90s in levels at this point, so level up your talents even further. At this point, you might want to get Magnetism, although if you're struggling to loot mobs, you should spec and reload or petal health instead. One thing that's actually extremely underrated are community-made tools outside the actual game. We've already talked about the map website and the official florr Discord server, but there's also Stormlink's DPS calculator, which I also already talked about, this crafting calculator made by Bobby, this other crafting calculator made by Darkmax, and a bunch of other Discord servers. Pinecone 7 is an amazing strategy server created by Jira and some other nerds, with every single strategy tool and piece of advice you'll ever need, including a website that tracks how powerful every super player in the game is. Credits to Cloud AI. Although I should inform you that the main mastermind behind this is a bit, eccentric. Antel Squads is a server about finding squads not in Antel, despite actually being better for assembler pings if you don't have 30 supers. LB's Hive has cool history, Farcord notifies you of easy to loot supers, and Trader Finder is good for finding everything other than traders. Finally, I would recommend joining an active guild. And yes, I hear you solo fanatics, but hear me out. One of the main issues with most players trying to farm is not being able to find good squads, which will lead to terrible rates and wasted bonuses. Guilds can help a lot with this, depending on the guild, plus guildmates can inform you of events and free supers. Use the squad's guild section in Florr to find guilds, and if you can't find any, guilds can also help you get to know people in the community and create connections. And since this is an online multiplayer RPG, connections are honestly one of the most powerful things you can have, making it far easier to get carried by powerful players. So get out there and make yourself known to the world. Okay, well, maybe not those guys. Now, as you keep grinding more and more, you'll soon forget the novelty of having your first couple of ultras. For every ultra you obtain, crafting one more becomes ever less exciting. Farming for hours on end has simply become a routine for you, and maybe florr will start to take over your very life. If this sounds like you, then you're ready to start fighting some super mobs. A few basic things about supers other than the stuff I noted already. They almost always spawn in ultra zones. After level 75 you can see their spawn messages, which change based on where they spawn, and oftentimes you will need to wait for more powerful players to lure the super from an ultra zone, or follow a mega squad to reach the super. Well, unless it gets greeted by a level 150 squad already farming there. To loot a super, you'll need to deal around 3 million to 100 million damage depending on how difficult the mob is. So you'll need an actually decent ultra DPS build like triangles with at least 200k DPS against the super bunny to even compete for the loot table. The easiest supers to get by far are the ones in Anthound, specifically the normal soldier ants, and it's very likely you will have encountered multiple already, so wait for those to spawn to get yourself acquainted with fighting supers. Getting to a super usually involves bubbling to an M zone or U zone, and then waiting in the mega squad until the super shows up. You should use a safe bubble build with poo to navigate to the mega squad, being careful not to anchor any mobs or break your poo along the way. If there's tons of mythic mobs in the way, you might need to use DPS plus a poo to slowly clear a path through, assuming you don't have enough survivability and speed to simply just bubble through them. For most supers, there will likely be tons of players bubbling over to try and get the loot themselves, resulting in a large crowd forming. You might need to turn this option off to decrease the lag. Careful not to touch the super. It's highly recommended to use Sponge or Nizar in case you do get hit, if not a full-on tanking / safe bubble build for the more dangerous supers. Make sure to dodge all the other dangerous mobs, wait for nearby mobs to be cleared before attacking it, and prepare to not waste a second of time, because it will likely die extremely quickly when players start attacking it. And if you've dealt enough damage but died in the middle, well, you better start begging to M28 that the super dies before all your damage gets reset in 1 minute. Some supers are fairly difficult to loot even for super players. These are the supers that are pretty much impossible for most ultra players to loot. Hold on, let me get a quick list here. Alright. Baby Ant's eggs, dandelion rock, every anthill burrow mound, every queen overmind, cacti, shiny ladybug, sandstorm, sponge, diver ant, all of jungle supers except maybe mantis and evil centipede, sewer supers, so they don't go there to the box, most factory supers, definitely every hell super, non-fairy pyramid supers, and every rare super that I didn't yet mention, like ghosts. I think that's it. Remember the greed equilibrium rule. The weaker it is in real life, the harder it gets greeded off the face of the planet. And not to mention all the technically gettable supers are still pretty 50-50 depending on your tendency to crash into the nearest ultra, the amount of players present, and the amount of mobs that players with, let's say, lower than average IQ bring over to ruin over everyone's lives. Basically, if there isn't less than 30 players at the scene, and if you play on weekends or holidays there's always going to be more than 30 people, expect not to lose. You're going to need a lot of practice to hunt supers, both due to its chaotic nature in general, but also because many super mobs have special abilities that are often extremely dangerous. For example, super jellyfish release giant waves of lightning every couple of seconds that you have to shovel under. Plus, hornets, wasps, and mecha wasps create a spiral of missiles after biting their tail, requiring you to bubble away. Unless you have aura like me and can do this. The easiest supers to get, in my opinion, are normal and termite soldier ants as well as mecha supers. And if you've noticed, both of these supers come from places you would already want to farm. Despite its difficulties, the rewards of shunting are obvious. Most supers have a 90%-ish chance to drop an ultra, so you'll rack up ultras in no time if you start farming supers. Also, you'll be able to get ultras that are usually pretty difficult to obtain with a normal farming. To keep track of when super spawn in all 3 servers, and not just the current server you're at, use the game tag in the floor cord and set it so you get pinged every time a super spawns. Remember, the more you fight supers, the better you'll get at dodging mobs, knowing when to DPS, and luring. Keep hunting supers, and as you fail and succeed again and again, eventually this too will become just a routine for you. Super petals. Once you've reached around level 100, you can start trying to get a super petal, although it'll probably take you until around level 115 to actually get one. First though, before you consider getting a super, you might want to consider getting saw blades from factory first. You know those useless fragment petals that are so worthless you can't even trade them for coins or absorb them? Well, combine 20 of those with a cog in an assembler recipe and you'll get a saw blade. A petal which is as deadly and gruesome as it sounds and looks, with stats straight up better than the basic of the next rarity, although it doesn't have extra range, so it's best used in safe bubble, yin yang, and lentil DPS builds. So, in other words, by assembling only 21 out of the 253 ultras needed to oracle a standard super, and let's be honest, fragments are so easy to get it doesn't really even count as 20, you can get around 75% of S-Coin's DPS. Yeah, why wouldn't you want to do this? Factory is fairly popular, so if you don't need too many petals to farm for the required ingredients, although waiting for the Ultra Saw Blade Assembler notification may take some patience. But yeah, if you don't want to spend all the time and effort for a super immediately, get a few Saw Blades first for a fraction of the time and you'll notice your DPS skyrocket, allowing you to obtain actual supers far more easily. With all that being said, there are generally 4 viable ways to get a super in the current meta. The first and most popular is battery ramming in sewers. With all the saw blades you've accumulated from farming factory, you can do absolutely nothing with them because the flies will dodge all your damage. Instead, grab all the batteries you've gotten and create a build like this, with disc, sponge, and some mythic totems from Pyramid. Now all you need to do is head to the garbage zone in sewers and throw yourself headfirst at the mobs. Suicide ramming into this mess of garbage bags and silverfish will lead to your ultra batteries destroying hundreds of families of poor innocent flies, building totem stacks to heal you and creating a chain reaction of fly murder until you get murdered by a silverfish. As long as you bring a pretty good squad, the amount of wings and poo you can potentially get in one bonus could fill up your mom's toilet. You can get both S-Wing and S-Poo, both decent supers, in about 2 months of constant bonuses. Another strategy is to farm Ant Hell. Again, actually though, by far the most common way most players inevitably end up with a super is simply super hunting. You get an ultra every couple of minutes if you have even a semi-decent track record of successfully leading supers. And plus, you can often get really powerful rare supers out of absolutely nowhere. Or absolutely trash supers, but we don't need to talk about that. No crazy strategy needed, just raw skill and raw damage using your saw blades or mecha missiles. Plus, you don't even need to rely on squads or bonuses whatsoever. The final way to get a super is by entering a special rift that spawns once every cycle of a Chinese dynasty. This sends you to Battle Royale, where you fight up to 150 other players in a deathmatch until only one guy is left standing to claim the ultimate prize. Either the worst super petal in the game, other than Fragment, or a unique petal that lasts for 2 days until someone steals it. Now I could explain how this works, but as a humble farmer who's never gotten past the 30-minute mark in Battle Royale, and is far too impatient to wait for an event that opens every 2 hours, which feels more like 20, I'll just recommend you to check out this Triangles Guides on Rifts. It's pretty good. That's probably the most convoluted way to get a super, but know that regardless of which way you'll decide to obtain them, you'll need an absolutely insane dedication to finish this project. There's a reason only around 7,000 people in the world have obtained the super, well, mainly because no one actually plays this game. To obtain the super, you will need to devote your entire soul, your entire purpose for one thing, and that one thing is to play florr. Because the only real thing that's stopping you from achieving your goals is yourself. I don't know what that means, I don't know what coke I smoked on while I was writing the script, but just know that if you want a super, you're gonna have to work for it.
No, I'm saying there was no person.
Nice. The hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal, these words appear. My name is Oyzmandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty in despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Now, I'm not going to guide you much further past this point, since by now you'll have most of the knowledge you need. Plus, this was supposed to be a beginner's guide, but with your new super, you'll actually find that it isn't that great for how difficult it is to obtain. Sure, it's fine for clearing bigger mobs and whatnot, but it won't dramatically buff your power unless you get a really good super pedal like Bone of Pearl. Now, from this point onwards, you can use the same 3 strategies to farm more supers. Your DPS will also generally shift towards Lentil with Eternal Reload once you get enough levels. Make sure to hunt Mummy Beetles for Ultra Lentils. Generally, the more playtime you put in, the more powerful you'll get. Eventually, you'll want to join a good super guild like TGNG or all these other ones. You can try to hunt for the rarest petals like Gold Leaves, Mimics, and Moons, which will all help you out a bunch. And once you've collected enough supers to be able to sell your account on the Chinese black market, you might be able to forge 5 supers into a unique, which you'll have for at most 2 hours before some guy from Liechtenstein you've never heard of before steals it back. And maybe one day, after months upon years upon decades of grinding, you might earn an Eternal Petal, long after the game has faded to obscurity. Florr is one of those games where progress isn't really progress. There's no real goal to be achieved, and once you get into the late game, it just becomes a repetitive loop of grinding the same mobs day after day after day. And for what? All to get some differently colored squares to gain the respect of a small swath of lonely randoms on the internet. In the end, when we all inevitably quit, you'll have to look back at the work you've put into your endeavors, and decide whether everything was truly worth the time. After all, you've already done so much, dedicated more to a simple flower game than any normal person would have ever fathomed or understood. The final piece of advice is not how to play florr, but rather how to quit, at least for a little while. And remember what a garden truly is, a place of serenity where the sun breathes light into the trees and the bugs mind their own business, and where after so long, you can finally touch some real grass. Whoa, that feels nice.